Right, hi guys, and welcome back to the Love-Hate relationship series. Slightly bending the rule with that, but you know, you'll live with it. If you've not seen the first episode, of course, where I score my 5 best drivers of the Formula E season, then I'll leave the icon up there somewhere. I can't remember which way it goes. Is it that way? Is it that way? Nonetheless, you'll find it'll be up there now. And you can watch that episode where I score my top 5 drivers, who I think was the 5th best, 4th, 3rd and 1st best driver in the current Formula E season that has just gone, of course. This one's a little bit more ranty, a little bit more shouty, a little bit more slaggy-offy, as I go through my 5 worst, in order as well. So we go from 5th, which is technically the least worst on this list, up to 1st, which is the worst. So yeah, stand by for fireworks potentially. But if you'd like to just soak yourself in gently, then if you clicked on those icons up there, or you'll find it somewhere else, you can watch my 5 best, which is all rainbows and kittens and cuddles and puppies and freshly newborn chicks tweeting away and all that bollocks. And then this one's where we're going to get meaty. So yes, let's sink us teeth into it, shall we? So 5th on this list, as in the 5th worst on this list, so not quite the worst, but certainly up there. I have given it to Stoffel Vandoorne. I'm afraid to say that as well, but let's be honest here. Season 8 champion, comes into the DS Penske squad as champion. Took a few races to get going, of course, was the first driver to score points for DS Penske in the 2nd round at Saudi Arabia over his teammate Jean-Eric Vergne, which you thought, well, it's a little bit of something, I suppose. The car and team certainly just aren't there at the moment. But then his teammates started to deliver great results, and Vandoorne's results never really came, did they? He didn't have a very good season at all. He was only picking up the 1s and 2s of points. Meanwhile, his teammate was up there on podiums, securing pole positions, and doing, all in all, a lot better job. You know, Vandoorne, since he came into the championship, he had a difficult season 1. Season 2, he was beaten by, of course, Nick de Vries. And then his 3rd season was the season he won, if I remember that rightly. Or does he have 4 seasons? This is his 5th. I can't remember. It's been a while, though, hasn't it? It's been a while since he's been in the championship. Ever since he was dropped by McLaren. So that would have been 2018. So he's done 19, 20, 21, 22. This is 23. So it would be his 5th season now. So yeah, you know, but he comes in as a champion. And you'd have just expected that little bit more from him. But he just didn't deliver the goods, did he? And yes, you could say it was a difficult car, it was a difficult team, the team being a backmark of the previous seasons in the Gen 2 era. That's all well and good, but then when his teammates started delivering some fantastic results and some solid performances, even when the car didn't look capable of doing it, Vandoorne just didn't seem to gel with the DS Penske. And it was unfortunate, but I've got to put him on this list because he was massively outscored by his teammate over the season and just generally under-delivered. So yeah, unfortunately, 5th place on this list, it has to be Stoffel Vandoorne. The Season 8 champion is now the 5th worst driver, in my opinion, in the overall championship. But yeah, I hope he does a lot better going into next season. Of course I do. And I hope it's just a one-dud season. But, you know, he didn't do anything particular wrong. He wasn't having any massive accidents that were his fault. He wasn't taking his teammate out. He wasn't making silly errors. He just didn't have the overall pace compared to his teammate. So yeah, 5th on this list it is, unfortunately, Stoffel Vandoorne. 4th on this list it is Sérgio Sette Câmara. And it had to be, again, you know, his teammate Dan Tinctum did a far better job in equal machinery this season. Without Dan Tinctum in that car, in that Neo, I don't think Neo would have finished 9th. Well, I knew they wouldn't have done. And they might have even lost out to Apt come the end, because Sérgio Sette Câmara this season has had 2 good races. The main one being India, where he picked up 5th place and 10 points, which were a crucial 10 points. Of course they were, you know. Without Sérgio Sette Câmara in that situation, they'd have lost out to Mahindra in the title, would Neo. Absolutely get that. But Dan Tinctum was stringing a lot better races along. And even with the Dan Tinctumness that happened with Dan Tinctum's season, Sérgio Sette Câmara was just nowhere near. You know, the amount of times that Tinctum was qualifying himself inside the top 5, top 6 area, and Sérgio Sette Câmara was down there in like 18th, 19th, 20th, just not doing a good job at all. And Dan Tinctum picking up points, racing in points. You know, sometimes the energy efficiency of the Neo wasn't there for Tinctum to manage to score the points, but he was up there in points paying positions, whereas Sergio Sette Câmara spent most of his season just in 15th. Every time I saw Sergio Sette Câmara this season on the timing board, he was 15th. That's the only position he's sent to live in, which is absolutely nowhere near points and nowhere near gaining anything. Even if there's an accident up ahead, you're probably only going to get to 12. You know, he was never in a position in a car, okay, that sometimes under-delivered, but he was never in a position to score points and benefit from other people's misfortunes if it all went wrong ahead. Because when you're down there in 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, a lot's got to go wrong, and even then you're still not going to score points. You know, you're still just going to miss out. You know, it's crazy to think. But yeah, I'm not saying the Neo was an absolute championship winning car this season. By all means it wasn't. As mentioned, the energy efficiency wasn't there at times, and Dan Tinctum, despite his impressive qualifying performances, couldn't end up in the points in the race. That's fine, but you've got to be up there. And Sette Câmara on so many occasions this season was P nowhere for a long, long time, and it became incredibly frustrating. And, you know, as mentioned, apart from that India race, really, it was all much of a muchness and just a great shame. So, yeah, for Sergio Sette Câmara, he has to be 4th on this list. A shame. And he has looked good in previous seasons, you know. When he was in DS Dragon last season, he managed to pick up a couple of points at the end of the season in a car that was a backmarker car, practically getting lapped every race, you know. So the fact he was able to deliver points, you think, wow, that's a good performance, that. It'd be a great asset to Neo. But it's just not translated at all this season. And yeah, 1-2 good results. But for the 16 race season, he's just not delivered the goods enough. So yeah, Sergio Sette Câmara, 4th on this list. 3rd on this list, it is Edoardo Mortara. Edoardo Mortara, 3rd on this list. I cannot believe how drastically wrong this season has gone for him. It really has gone south, and rather rapidly, hasn't it? It took Maserati what felt like 87 races before they eventually scored points, because the amount of times that not just himself, but his teammate Gunter was shunting as well, it got to the borderline ridiculous early on in this season. It really, really did. But Mortara was the main culprit of this. And as Gunter found his feet, Mortara didn't. And he was still crashing. He was still causing absolute chaos and pandemonium and just heavy damage to his car in pretty much every race he went into. If he didn't crash in the race, he crashed in qualifying. If he didn't crash in qualifying, he crashed in practice. There was always something wrong with Mortara. You know, even as like the Portland race, he still decided to have a crash in the later stages when he was in the points. You know, it was as frequent as that he was still under-delivering. It must be said, these last couple of races, he got himself together and picked up some points here and there. But it was just too little too late for me personally. And I think only these points that he scored now kept him ahead of another driver that I'm going to come to in a moment. But, you know, for the most part, he just didn't get it together at all. He was always off. He was always out. On the very rare occasion he was unlucky at times, admittedly, you know, sometimes luck's just not in your favour and you get caught up in accidents that aren't your fault. But for the most part, he put himself in those positions where it all went wrong, and he was doing it to himself. So Edoardo Mortara has to be 3rd on this list, and a guy that I really, really like, and I really wanted him to do well, and I expected him to be a potential championship contender this season, you know, and there were nothing to say in the previous seasons that he wouldn't. The Maserati squad wasn't a new team, it was just a rebrand from Venturi, so he knew the team well, he knew the engineers well, he knew everything well apart from the Gen 3 car, and okay, take a couple of races to get going, but then from then on you should be on it. He just didn't deliver the goods at all at any point this season. So yeah, scored a few points as the season went on, but for the most part was very, very vacant and ended up being absolutely decimated by his teammate Gunter, which at the start of the season looked impossible, because they both look like a pair of shunters, but Gunter got his act together. Mortara didn't, and it's a huge shame, but he's 3rd on this list. Yeah, very disappointing season overall, and I would be surprised if Maserati keep him despite his contract for next season. And if Maserati don't keep him, I can't see anyone else wanting him, let's put it that way. He's caused a lot of damage and a lot of repair bills for the team. So yeah, big disappointment this season, and probably one of the biggest disappointments for me personally. But there were 2 drivers that were far worse, but we'll come to those shortly. But for now, 3rd place on this list to Edoardo Mortara. 2nd on this list, we come to Sam Bird. It had to be, I'm afraid. Sam, as much as I love you as a driver and I think you're a great guy, this season just was not his season at all, and rounds out a difficult end to his Jaguar career, of course. I mean, we knew quite early on that he wouldn't be staying at Jaguar. The rumours were flying, and no one could really blame Jaguar for doing it either, could they? It's been a difficult one, hasn't it? You know, let's be honest, Mexico, he may as well not bother turning up for. It wasn't his fault whatsoever. The car just kept breaking down in every session. Just one of those things, unfortunately. A new Gen 3 car, the team working around it. Got it wrong a couple of times. The car broke down, as mentioned. He may as well not bother turning up. Then he had a run of just okay, nothing special, just picking up a few points here and there. But as mentioned, Mitch had that at the start of the year as well, just Jaguar finding their feet really and not maximising their potential, which was all well and good. And then we got to India and he took his teammate out and absolutely harpooned him out of the race and took himself out of the race, and you think, God, that's bad. That's bad. You shouldn't be doing that, Sam. Added to that, crashes in qualifying, poor pace in races, not scoring any points at all. He was on a run of bad form. Then we had a run of good form. We had a good couple of podiums there in the middle half of the season where you think, oh, he's found his feet. He's found his feet. He's doing all right now. He's doing all right. I think he just, you know, we'll skip everything that happened in the first few races, Sam, but you're doing all right now. You're going to be a good second wingman to Mitch. Then he took his teammate out again. You're like, oh, for God's sake. For God's sake, that was Jakarta, wasn't it? He took his teammate out again in Jakarta. And, you know, it's just been overall lacklustre from Sam. He has been so poor. Apart from maybe 3 good races this season, the rest of it has been absolutely diabolical. And, you know, taking your teammate out once is bad enough in a season. Taking him out twice is just purely unforgivable. And that's why he has to be second on this list. You just can't go doing things like that twice. It's just unbelievable. It really has had a difficult season, but there were moments there where you think, oh, he's out of it now, he's out of it, he's doing well, and then he just drops off again, and he does absolutely dismal. He's been a bit of a shunter, he's had poor pace, he's had poor performance, he's cost the team a lot of points, and ultimately that could have cost Mitch Evans the overall title. Could have cost Jaguar the overall team's title as well. Let's not forget that. Only missing out by a few points. It was very close going into that final race. 3 points was the gap as they started that race. It could have been a hell of a lot closer had Sam and Mitch not taken each other out. You know, that was 2 positions lost there. I think there was 6th and 7th when it first happened in India. And then when Mitch got punted off, I think there was 7th and 8th then. So that was another good haul of points gone missing as well. So could have been a lot closer in the team's championship as well as Mitch Evans' own driver's title campaign as well. So Sam Bird, poor season. Rumoured to be going to McLaren. Why on earth McLaren would want him after this season, I have no idea. But yeah, nonetheless, it's been a disappointing season again for Sam Bird. Let's not forget, 2 seasons on the bounce now. It's been poor as well. Last season was unacceptable as well. Didn't score a podium last season. So, yeah, this season he's had podiums, but he's also punted his teammate off twice, and that mitigates the damage quite considerably. So, yeah, Sam Bird, second on this list. If he's in Formula E next year, it would be a miracle, because if McLaren want him, then more fool them. And then first on this list, by quite a considerable margin, it wasn't even questioned as to who was going to be first on this list. It is André Lotterer. Now, what on earth has André Lotterer been doing this season, I hear you ask? Well, he started the season off well, didn't he? 4th place finish at Mexico. You think, okay, you know, Jake Dennis won that race. Lotterer 4th, stuck behind the Jake Dennis, Lucas Di Grassi train, you know, trying to get that final podium position. Pascal Wehrlein was quite a way up the road as well at that point for 2nd. So, yeah, okay. Good, solid effort, that. Good effort. And, yeah, where did we go from here? Well, it was down to the lake, I fear. And, yeah, he absolutely drowned himself as the season went on, because he only picked up another 11 points in the remainder of the season. So he picked up 12 in Mexico, round number 1, and then in the remaining 13 races that he did, because he missed 2 races, he missed the double header at, was that Jakarta? Because of his other commitments to his other championship, so David Beckman stepped in. Yeah, he missed 2 races there, but the rest of the 13 races that he actually did do only picked up another 11 with a couple of 8s and a 10th. It was very, very, very minimal. And what did we do? Every time we saw a yellow flag, you were like, oh, I wonder who this could be. It's André Lotterer stuffed in a wall. Oh, I wonder who that yellow flag could be. It's André Lotterer limping a car back with 3 wheels. Oh, I wonder who that could be. Oh, it's André Lotterer in a wall again. Oh, I wonder, oh, André. Oh, André. Oh, André. Oh, fucking hell. Who's that in last? It's André Lotterer. It was just diabolical. Diabolical. And just for some context as to how diabolical he actually was, Jake Dennis was Drivers' Champion with 229 points. And as mentioned, Lotterer only scored 23. That is a 206 points less than your teammate. Now, if André Lotterer had have just scored a few more points here and there, the team would have finished a lot better off in the team's championship than they did, ending the season in 3rd, which is only purely by Jake Dennis's efforts. That's all it can be down to. It wasn't down to André Lotterer at any stretch of the imagination. They were running round with one car this season, and I was incredibly surprised that when they put David Beckman in the car, that they actually took David Beckman back out the car to put André Lotterer back in. Because had I been Andretti at that point, I'd have gone, look, Beckman's inexperienced, he's probably not going to score points, but neither is fucking Lotterer. So let's put Beckman in the car, keep him going for the rest of the season, and we'll evaluate him going into season 10. That's the way I would have done it, but no, obviously they had to honour the contract with Lotterer, keep him in the car, and I've no idea why, because every time you saw him, it was in the wall, he had no wing, he'd had contact with someone else, he'd hit this, he'd rammed into that, he'd crashed over there, he'd qualified at the back again. It was just appalling. I mean, just to sum up how badly his season went, the final race in London, round number 16 of the championship, he qualified 13th, which is still poor considering where Jake Dennis were, but it was better for Lotterer. That's probably the best qualifying he had for quite a number of races. No one ever overtook each other in that race because it was all very sprayy. Everyone had it was a safety car start, so no standing start. It was just safety car procedure. Everyone was lined and gapped. Everyone pretty much finished where they should have, where they started basically. If you qualified there, you sort of finished there. A couple of cars making a couple of overtakes, but that was it. Oh no, Lotterer wasn't staying in 13th. He finished 21st in that race, and the only car that finished behind him was John Eckvern that had to have a pit stop. It was just diabolical. Like, that just sums up how bad his season was. And you could just see him tumbling down the order like, what are you doing? He didn't even crash. He didn't even spin. He just had a lack of pace to the point where everyone overtook him. It was just unacceptable this season from André Lotterer, I'm sorry to say. And, you know, he's always been known as the feisty driver, sometimes not giving drivers enough room, squeezing them too late in braking zones and things like that. He's a feisty driver that, you know, has been over the limit at times with his racing, but this time around, this season, he's just been over the limit when it comes to himself. His ability has gone in the Gen 3 era. But I don't understand why he had that good one race, that good first race at Mexico, and then from there he just went AWOL. It was unbelievable. It was like they stuck me in the chuffing car for all season. I'm like, can you pretend to be Lotterer? Absolutely, I can. It was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So yeah. By quite some margin. I mean, he didn't take his teammate out, but he wasn't close enough to take his teammate out, and that's my issue there. You know, Jake Dennis is winning, taking all these podiums, and then that bad spell where Jake Dennis had 4 races without points, Lotterer should have been there to pick up some bloody points for the team, but it just never happened. Never happened at all. So yeah, André Lotterer, a terrible, terrible season. One of the worst I've seen in Formula E for quite some time. I would say Ma Qinghua in the Neo. I mean, we knew the Neo was bad, but Oliver Turvey, I think he scraped a couple of points that season and was certainly a lot closer to points. Ma Qinghua was getting lapped. Sometimes in races he was getting lapped twice. Now, apart from getting lapped, André Lotterer was absolutely devastating. So yeah, 206 points behind his teammate, cost his team the team's championship, hands down. Poor pace, poor performance, cost his team a hell of a lot of damage in practice, qualifying, racing, everything. He just offered nothing to the Andretti squad and offered nothing to Formula E. So yeah, first place is André Lotterer. So there we go then, guys. Those were my top 5 most disappointing drivers of the Formula E season. The worst 5 in my opinion. Let me know your thoughts and feedback down below. Did I score any of those drivers fairly? Do you think any of those drivers shouldn't have been inside the top 5 and others should have been? Did you agree with my top 5, but would you have put them in a slightly different order? Let me know in the comments below. I look forward to all your thoughts and feedback, of course. So yes, this is it now. The last bit of Formula E content for quite some time from me. I will return back next season with the Cruel Corner again for season numero 10. Number 10, season 10. It's going to be exciting. And yeah, I'm going to look forward to that. I've had quite a lot of feedback in terms of improvement and things like that, and how to change the series a little bit and make it more interesting, etc. And I'm always welcome to feedback. So if you've got any feedback, let me know down below what you would like to see in that series. If you haven't watched the series, I'll pop it up there. I'll pop it in the description so you can watch a couple of episodes, see what you think to it, and let me know your thoughts and feedback down below on that as well. So thank you all so much for watching, guys. I'll see you all again very, very soon. I hope you enjoyed this little one-off series again, sort of thing. Nice to bring back the love-hate relationship series every now and again, but I thought it was quite a worthwhile topic after the Formula E season had ended. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching as always, guys, and I'll see you all again very soon. Thanks a lot, and much love.